Kamala Harris's first interview reminded voters why they elected former President Donald Trump in the first place. Look, the great thing about being an independent is that I don't blindly root for Republicans or blindly root for Democrats. I can just call things how I see them. And this highly anticipated interview, well, it wasn't the train wreck that Republicans were hoping for, but it also wasn't a touchdown for Democrats or a home run for Kamala Harris either. And in fact, I think it's actually going to be a net negative for Kamala Harris and the Democrats because Kamala failed to do the two jobs she had. Job number one, distinguish and separate herself from Joe Biden. And job number two, to paint herself as the outside candidate. And instead, what she did was she, again, reminded voters why they elected Donald Trump. She proved that she would be a return to politics as usual and just the old, boring status quo. And you can tell that she failed based on how the media is covering her. Here's a look at what the Daily Beast said. It's actually a good thing that Kamala Harris's CNN interview was so dull. I actually disagree with their premise here because what their premise is, what they're implying is that Kamala Harris is dull because Donald Trump is only exciting because he's controversial and divisive and dramatic, and that makes for good TV. Well, being dull isn't a good thing, like they're implying here. It's actually a good thing that her interview was so dull. Imagine interviewing one of the founding fathers. What if Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson sat down with a journalist today? Do you really think that their interview would be boring? Now, it might not have the bombast or the dramatic flair that Donald Trump has, but I guarantee it would be a riveting watch because of their ideas, because of their ideals, because of their philosophies, because of their vision for the country and their conviction of making sure that they're able to carry out that vision for the country. I guarantee none of the founding fathers would ever be described as quote unquote dull. So I don't think that's quite the defense that the Daily Beast thinks it is. Also, the Associated Press went along those same lines. The interview, Kamala Harris's inaugural sit-down, was the most notable for seeming ... ordinary. That's your big selling point? I'm ordinary? I mean, is that really what we want in a president? And that's the false dichotomy that Democrats are trying to set up here, right? Because they're trying to paint this picture of Donald Trump as unstable, dramatic, and dangerous. And on the other hand, you have Kamala Harris, who's ordinary. Well, shouldn't we want something more than ordinary in our presidents? Shouldn't we demand extraordinary? I mean, that's what we want in a leader, someone who has a vision, someone who has conviction. And of course, we want all of those things to be rooted in the ideals of our country, rooted in the Constitution. But again, I don't think that that's quite the selling point that the media thinks it is. Last but not least, The Independent said Kamala's interview was a masterclass in dodging traps set by Trump. No, it wasn't a masterclass in that. It was a masterclass in just avoiding to answer any question, period, because that's what she did. I'm going to go through her interview clip by clip and just thoroughly analyze it. Now, to be very clear, I'm going to have to interrupt these clips every once in a while because YouTube will flag me for just reposting CNN's videos. So before I get comments being angry that I'm interrupting these videos, I have to do that because of the copyright strike system, and I don't want to get in trouble on my channel. So here is the very first question that Kamala Harris was asked by Dana Walsh. She was asked about what she would do on day one. And I want you to notice she never actually answers the question about what she would do on day one.
Are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at...
Okay, and here's what I mean by that. A lot of people, especially low information voters, and I don't want to call that term sounds negative, right? Because it implies that they're ignorant. And they may be ignorant because they're not watching the news, but most people aren't political junkies, right? They're too busy working and providing for their families, just to clarify that. But, you know, she gives this answer and it seems politically correct and it seems very sterile and, you know, as if she's not dramatic and not going to cause trouble. And a lot of people just think, well, she's likable, so I'll vote for her. But if you'll notice, she doesn't actually answer the question. How are you going to strengthen the middle class? She makes all these promises, but never digs into the specifics. What specifically would you do? Does that mean tax cuts? If so, how big are the tax cuts? Who are the tax cuts for? Are you going to pass regulations? If so, what are those regulations? What industries? Are you going to bring manufacturing back? How are you going to bring manufacturing back? How are you going to entice businesses to invest in the United States?
At the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people. I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and in an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
No, that's not true. There is unity in success, unity in strength, and unity in America first. Trump has never tried to divide America. It's been the Democrats and it's been the media who have tried to make even his most benign statements remotely controversial. Here's the proof, right? Because remember, when Trump first ran and he announced that he wanted to build the border wall, Democrats called it divisive. They said it was inhumane. They said it was xenophobic and racist. They attacked him for wanting to build the border wall. Well, now Kamala Harris is out campaigning, literally campaigning and saying that she's going to build the border wall. Where are the attacks on her? Why isn't the media calling her racist? Why isn't the media calling her xenophobic? I thought walls didn't work. I thought walls were bad. And now Kamala Harris can go out there and say she's going to build the border wall. In fact, Kamala Harris, as I pointed out in a previous video, she's now using, at least in 3 different instances, footage of the border wall that Trump built in her campaign ads. So her talking about Trump being divisive and all of that just doesn't make sense. But again, the question was, what are you going to do on day one? She did not answer it. She provided vague things like, we're going to strengthen the middle class. Again, how are you going to do that? What are the specifics? Give us your policy. Give us the details. So Dana Bash asked a follow-up question. And again, Kamala Harris didn't answer. Again, just more hopey, changey language. We're going to make an opportunity economy. Well, what is an opportunity economy? How do you make an opportunity economy? How is that different from what we have now? Here's a look at that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what
How
we're
are you
going to
gonna
do
do
to
that?
invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000.
Which you stole
for
from
families
former
for
President
the
Trump?
first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
Yeah, and that too, Democrats are also giving free housing to illegal immigrants. So there should have been a follow-up question on that. What about that? And that's one thing I want to talk about too, moving forward. You'll notice that even when Kamala doesn't answer, and even when it looks like Dana Bash has asked a follow-up question, there are so many opportunities for Dana to have asked more follow-up questions, or can you specify, can you clarify, or let me provide a counterpoint, and can you give me a response to that counterpoint? And she doesn't do that. It was a very softball interview. A lot of the questions were teed up for her. Now, Dana asked Kamala about her statement of we're not going back, which is really ironic, right? Because during the DNC, they kept chanting, we're not going back, we're not going back. Well, just a few short years ago, things were better under Donald Trump. We had world peace, no new wars, the Middle East wasn't exploding, Russia hadn't invaded Ukraine. They only did that because of the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal under Joe Biden. The economy was roaring, wages were high, there was virtually no inflation, the cost of living was down. I mean, the economy was soaring under former President Donald Trump. And so Dana Bash asked, can you clarify what you mean by we're not going back?
Talked about, you call it the opportunity economy, you are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Okay, so she's going to, just to give you a preview, because I want you to be aware of what she's going to do here. She starts talking about COVID and how the Biden administration, recovered from COVID. And the issue with that is that President Trump did a great job of managing COVID. He had the 15 days to slow the spread, and then he did what he was supposed to do. He left it up to the individual states, because it's not the role of the federal government to institute a nationwide shutdown like a lot of other countries. He let local states, local jurisdictions come up with their own plans. And what happened is that radical Democrats, like in California, exposed themselves as being radical, and they also exposed their hypocrisy. Gavin Newsom famously, infamously shut down his state. Meanwhile, within his own state, he went to parties without masks. He drank a lot, went to ate fancy cheese boards and charcuterie boards with his friends while he shut down the state. So the Democrats exposed their radicalness, exposed their hypocrisy. Meanwhile, Republicans took a more common sense, sensible approach. They opened up schools before much of the blue states and the blue cities. They opened up their economies. And so it's unfair what Kamala Harris is about to say. And then there's a lie later on that comes about inflation. We'll get into that.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. Literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%.
Okay. Gonna stop her here and correct a few things. Number one, inflation at 3% sounds great because it's down from 8%, it's down from 7%, but inflation is cumulative. So what happens is, just for easy math, let's say inflation, the cost of something is $100, right? Let's say inflation goes up 10%. Well, now the cost is 110. Let's say inflation goes up 10% next month. Well, you're not taking 10% of the original 100. You're now taking 10% of that new number, 110. So it keeps growing, growing, growing. Inflation, though, when she says it's lowered to 3%, that doesn't mean that we've now gone from $110 for that cost to $103. What she's saying is now we're going to take 3% of 110 and add that to 110. So in other words, inflation is still worse. We're still worse off today, and costs are still going higher. So her phrasing of inflation's down to 3%, no, what we want would be for those numbers to go back down to their baseline. So that's not a good thing. Number two, more people died. This is a fact. You can fact check me. More people died under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris than died under Donald Trump. She wants to talk about mismanagement. They had the vaccine. They could have shut down the country. They could have instituted mask mandates. They could have, and I'm not saying they should have done that. I mean, they could have, theoretically, but I again, not saying that they should have. But I only want to say that because she wants to talk about mismanagement. And, they had more therapeutics, they had more resources, the hospitals weren't full, and yet more people died under their administration than under Donald Trump's. She really wants to talk about mismanagement?
Our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young...
Okay, again, she stole the idea for the child tax credit. And then when it comes to price gouging, that's what they do in communist, Marxist countries. Price gouging controls have never worked in history. Also, she talks about price gouging and addressing price gouging as if, the food industry and the grocery industry is, trying to rip off consumers. Well, the profit margins in that industry are oftentimes less than 1%. Grocery stores and food processors. I mean, it's on the high end, 3% profit margins, but for most of them, 1%. And she wants to accuse them of price gouging, and she's going to put price caps on them. That is going to drive costs through the roof. It's going to put grocers and food producers and farmers out of business. And that would be terrible, not only for the economy, but for our way of life in America.
Families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
That right there also would just giving, home buyers a $25,000 down payment would only drive the cost of housing through the roof, because that doesn't address the core issue here. The core issue is, why is there a shorting housing in the first place? Why aren't more homes being built? Why are these mega corporations, why are these mega organizations such as BlackRock able to buy up all this land? Why are they able to buy up all these apartment units? Why are they able to turn, all these single housing units into, tall and skinny duplexes and just rent them out? I mean, there is a huge shorting crisis in this nation, and that, by the way, has to do or is a cause for the rising prices, because what is inflation? Well, it is when there aren't enough goods and there's too much money, too many dollars chasing too few goods. And she is not addressing, all the money that's artificially in the economy thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's bailouts, and the lack of supply, the lack of housing, the lack of homes. So she would actually make the problem worse without addressing any of the issues. Now, one of the issues she did talk about was fracking in Pennsylvania, and she attempted to deny that she claimed that she would not ban fracking. Take a look at this.
To get some clarity on where you stand on some key policy issues. Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania. Sure. Do you still want to ban fracking?
Okay, before she answers, I do want to point out that Dana referred to Pennsylvania as her must-win state. As I've been saying, realistically, whoever wins Pennsylvania will win the election. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, it is a 93% chance he wins the entire election, versus Kamala Harris. If she wins Pennsylvania, it is a 91% chance she wins the election. And the state itself has a 33% probability of being the state that decides the election one way or another. So this issue of fracking is really important, especially in Pennsylvania.
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said, you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
In 2020, I made it very clear where I stand. First of all, that is a lie. I will expose that here in a few seconds. But Dana Bash should have asked a follow-up question to that and really pushed her on it, because that's what a good interviewer does. They don't just ask follow-up questions. They also push back on statements and provide counter-arguments, or, again, will push on, you previously said this, you're saying this, these two things don't jive, they don't mash up. How do you explain that? And CNN apparently has more footage. This is a pre-taped interview. It was edited. So we don't know if Dana Bash asked a follow-up question and if they chose to leave it on the editing room, on the cutting room floor. We don't know that. But I would have asked a follow-up question there, because Kamala Harris did in 2019 say that she would ban fracking, and then in 2020 she never clarified her position on it, which she said previously in that clip. She actually clarified Joe Biden's position on it because she did that when she was on the vice presidential debate stage. So she never clarified her position. So the last statement we have from her is her 2019 position when she said she would ban fracking. So this is actually CNN. And that's how you know this interview is bad. CNN fact-checked her on this. They showed her 2019 clip, and then they showed her in 2020 defending Joe Biden on it, but again, talking about his policies and not hers. This is what it looked like.
The fact check, bottom line, Abby, is that she did not actually make clear at a 2020 debate that she had changed her previous support for a fracking ban. So let me take you through this kind of saga. So here's what she said at a CNN climate town hall in 2019 on the subject of a fracking ban.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
Again, there you have it. Kamala Harris didn't provide her views on fracking. She was providing Joe Biden's. And that's what, I'm not criticizing her for doing her job, for defending her boss. That's what she's supposed to do. But she could have given insight into how she views it. And if Dana Bash had done her research and taken a look at all of Kamala's statements, she would have known that. And she could have said, well, you actually didn't tell us your views on that debate stage. You were talking about your bosses. What are your views? Can you clarify? I really think Dana should have pushed back, and I really think she should have tried to get Kamala on the record just being clear, because Kamala has clearly flip-flopped on so many issues. Now, Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's support dog, her support animal, the straight white man, as Democrats like to say, was with her, and he performed just as poorly. He refused to answer any questions. And again, I think most people who don't pay attention to politics closely, if they tuned in, they'd be like, oh, he's fine, he seems nice. But when you really listen to the substance, there is no substance there. It is just intellectual fast food.
You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I'm...
Okay, so he's gonna continue, but I want to point out she asked questions about, like, you've lied about IVF, you've lied about all these things, how do you answer those? And he doesn't answer them. He just says, my students can vouch for me, people vouch for me, I'm a good guy. That's all he's saying there. He's not answering the question at all, and that is a fallacy. He's trying to appeal to his moral goodness and his character, and trying to say, I'm a good person, and therefore I would never lie. I just have poor grammar. That's why I lifted my video here, because on the Chiron there, he essentially was, sometimes my grammar is poor, or whatever it was. Really? He's going to blame his grammar for his lies? Just take a look at this. He never addresses the question. It's just, people vouch for me. I'm a good guy. People say I'm a good guy.
The one thing I'll tell you is I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us.
No one is trying to ban IVF.
I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And
again, an appeal to his
I won't
authority,
apologize
appeal
for
to
speaking
his
passionately,
character.
whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights. The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI. I think what they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban and the ability to be able to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
Okay, so, well, denying families a chance to have a beautiful child, that's what abortion is, and that's what you stand for. I mean, abortion is literally killing a beautiful, innocent child in the womb when they're most defenseless. Disgusting. But next, Dana Bash asked Tim Walz about the stolen valor accusations against him. And if, again, listen closely, he does not ever once deny, he never denies the accusations of stolen valor.
I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools. And
I speak like they do. Is he calling the rest of America liars? He speaks about children being shot in schools. What does that have to do about stolen valor? He's just trying to change the subject. He's trying to distract voters so that they, like him on this one issue and totally forget about the stolen valor accusations. Again, he's not denying any of that.
Around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again,
appeal
my
to
record's
character,
been out there for over 40 years.
moral
to
authority
speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak, as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have.
Okay,
and I never will.
Here's the thing. No one is demeaning his service. What people are criticizing is him lying about his service. And he didn't, here's the thing. He says it's just my grammar. He didn't just repeat these claims, just say these claims once. He's repeated them multiple times. When it came to his rank, he was introduced by the incorrect rank multiple times, and he never corrected those people. So it would be one thing if he misspoke once, because everyone misspeaks. But when you start doing it multiple times, it suggests that there's a pattern, either premeditated or sloppy. Either way, I think both of those are disqualifying or are huge red flags about your character and your integrity. So I think that's a big deal. And again, he didn't answer the question. Now, Kamala Harris did answer one of the last questions that Dana Bash asked, and it was about whether she had any regrets covering up for Joe Biden. And Kamala said she has no regrets. What? She is literally only the candidate right now because Joe Biden dropped out. He was forced out because of that awful debate performance, because no one thought, that really exposed him finally as being infirm, a day that will live in infirmary. Yes, I know it's infamy, but I'm calling Joe Biden infirm. Some people don't get that joke whenever I say it, so I just wanted to explain. But Kamala Harris said she has no regrets covering up the health and Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline. I think this answer right here should be disqualifying for her as a candidate because she has endangered the entire nation by covering up for Joe Biden. I mean, we are literally on the verge of World War III with what's happening in the Middle East, Russia, China. Hello? This is a national security issue.
Vice President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so...
Again, this is another thing that they do. They try to change the topic so they don't answer the question. Like, do you have any regrets saying that Joe Biden was fine? Oh, he cares about the people. He's so loving. He said... That doesn't answer the question. But for those low information voters who don't follow the news and only hear these sound bites, they think, oh, she speaks so lovingly about her boss. They really care about the country. And that's what's scary, is that It's through no fault of their own, the low information voters. The fault lies with the media for allowing these candidates to get away with fluff, because that's what this is. Intellectual junk food like this.
Smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president.
She also claims that her first thought when she found out Joe Biden was dropping out of the race was about him. I don't think that's the case. I would bet money that she thought about herself and her own political future. What do you think?
My first thought was not about me, to be honest with you. My first thought was about him.
Yeah, I doubt that. And so David Axelrod, Obama's former campaign advisor, went on CNN afterwards, and he said that this barely moved the ball forward. And CNN's review commentary panel essentially agreed that, yeah, it maybe moved the ball forward, but it wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't a home run. Here's what they had to say.
Now, you might not like the way she answered him, but she answered him as a capable, qualified leader. And I do think she moved the ball forward a little bit. You know, maybe she didn't score a touchdown tonight.
It wasn't a huge, I don't think she moved the ball that much forward.
No, and again, like I said at the very beginning of this video, I really think she reminded voters why they elected former President Donald Trump in the first place. Because he's a candidate of change. He says what he means. He's not politically correct. And people aren't supporting Trump just because of the drama. They're saying because they're supporting him because they know when he says something, he means it. When he says something, he's going to do it. When he says something, it's not because it's poll tested. It's not because there have been these focus groups and, you know, he's found these buzzwords that are going to help him in the polls or help him with public approval or help him with his image. He says things that he means. You know, Tim Walz says, I talk like an ordinary person. No, you talk like someone who's a crazy person. You talk like someone who's a radical leftist because you are. It's Trump who talks like a normal person. It's Trump who talks about love of country and love for our fellow man and our people and is proud to be an American and puts America first. Meanwhile, the Democrats, all they've done the last few years is talk about how racist and how flawed America is. That's why they encouraged people, and I get it's a First Amendment right, that's why they encouraged people to kneel during the national anthem. That's why they're supporting Hamas, pro-Gaza, pro-Palestine instead of pro-Israel, because Israel is an ally of America and is a symbol of the West. Okay, I'm getting off topic here, but again, I think Kamala Harris really just reminded people that she is the status quo. She is a normal politician who speaks in politician speak. It's very polished sounding, but doesn't really say anything. It's just intellectual junk food, intellectual fast food. At first glance, you know, maybe satiates your hunger and your thirst, but then you realize, wow, I'm really malnourished because there was nothing of substance there at all. She didn't answer any of the questions. She, again, has not revealed any of her policy positions or her ideas, and hopefully she'll feel comfortable after this interview because the press is trying to cover up for her, and hopefully now she'll give more and will expose herself even more. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and just my opinion, and I would love to know what you think in the comments down below. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you think Kamala Harris succeeded in this interview, or do you think she, like I think, reminded voters why they voted for Donald Trump? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me in the algorithm to reach more viewers like you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.